We start. Okay, good morning, everyone. Morning. I'd like to commence this committee hearing this morning with a word of prayer. So, if we can bow our heads for prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you this morning. Thank you once again, and we offer this prayer in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for coming this morning. We apologize for the late start. Firstly, I want to welcome you all to the Citizenship Parliamentary Committee hearing this morning on Tuesday, the 11th of August, 2026 at the State Function Room. Good morning, everyone, once again, and I welcome you all. I am Honorable Ricky Morris, Chair of the committee. I'm also the member for Alotau. Here with me this morning are my fellow committee members, Honorable Governor Gary Jufa, Governor for Oro, and of course, on my left is Honorable Lawyer Boy Samuel, the member for Mosby Northwest. Honorable members, I welcome you. The other members of the committee who are not present with us include Honorable Dr. Alan Marat, the member for Rabaul, Honorable Francis Casemoso, the member for North Bougainville, Honorable Tony Wowo, the governor of Sundown or Westepik, Honorable Ramsey Pariwa, who is the governor for Medang. They are not able to join the committee in this hearing because of prior commitments back in their respective provinces and districts. The Citizenship Matters Committee is a permanent committee of the National Parliament and is tasked with the responsibility to consider matters of national importance relating to citizenship and reports to the Parliament in accordance with the Citizenship Act 1975. This committee shall have the powers to send for persons, papers and records to act during the recess of Parliament, and this being the first hearing for this committee. This committee, through its own initiative, has established this inquiry to ascertain issues related to granting of citizenships, related immigration matters as well. The committee considers the fact that some of the contributing factors espousing PNG being grade listed relates to granting of citizenships and a limited cooperation and coordination between key state agencies responsible for compliance and enforcement of immigration regulations. The purpose of this hearing are to assist the committee with its inquiry on policy and legislative challenges confronting the lead agencies on immigrations and citizenship matters. Questions of what are our policy efforts to balance lawful safeguards and governance risk. The committee is hopeful that this hearing today will gather enough information that will contribute towards the report that this committee will present to Parliament in November of this year. The committee commenced this inquiry with a call for submissions and this will be followed by committees observing the Citizenship Awards that will be held at the end of this week. The committee will also visit the border post at Watung, Sandaun Province, and participate in the joint proceedings with the Parliamentary Committee from Australia on federal citizenship parliamentary matters. The committee is grateful for your attendance this morning. PNG Immigration Citizenship Services Authority, CMO, and your team, the PNG Customs Services, the Investment Promotion Authority, the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. This morning, the committee look forward to hearing from you on your presentations and submissions. The committee also looks forward to the attendance of the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary and the National Intelligence Organization and the PNG Defense Force after lunch today. Let me, as chairman, assure you that this inquiry this morning, today, this hearing, is not another scrutiny into your organizations, but more on generating information and awareness about your organization, your challenges, and how best we can be able to strengthen your work and your responsibilities. This committee intends to work with your organizations in driving your functions and responsibilities, taking note of the challenges that you face day to day. And we hope that this committee can be a voice to elevate those challenges in Parliament and to our National Executive Council and, of course, the executive government. We take note of the challenges that you face, and of course, we look forward to positive contributions that you will make this morning in your submissions. Having said these few words, I am confident that the position of the committee will be taken through this hearing will be a win-win situation for us all. This hearing is properly constituted of a parliamentary committee, and so all proceedings are protected by the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act of 1964. I now declare this committee hearing open and welcome the heads of the respective departments and agencies who have taken the allocated seats. And each of you will be required to make your presentation for at least 10 minutes. The format of this hearing this morning, we would like you to do your presentations, and then we can ask for clarity or questions towards the back end of your presentations. So I'd like to welcome the heads of agencies this morning. If you can introduce yourselves and then make your presentations. So the program is before you. Mr. Williton Nawasiu, the Chief Immigration Officer and Citizenship Services Authority. We have Ms. Amelia Nawanu from IPA, Mr. George Kaunakeke, the Secretary, Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. So those will be the four presenters this morning. So we'll start with the CMO this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, and members of the committee, Honorable Governor and Honorable Boy Samuel. Thank you for inviting us to this inquiry. Um, by way of introduction, my name is Wellington Navasibu, and I'm the Chief Migration Officer. I am here appearing before the committee with a number of my staff. I've got deputies from enforcement and compliance and from visa and passports, and with us also officers from different functional areas in immigration, but especially with citizenship, visa and enforcement matters. My team and I are happy to appear before the inquiry. While matters of citizenship, as we know, personal choices of individual, we consider, and with the committee's intent and a mandate, it's a matter for public interest. And so we are happy to participate. Reading from the terms of reference, Chairman, we note that it goes beyond citizenship and covers other areas of immigration. So we are happy also to receive any questions and inquiries in those different functional areas. But for the purpose of the committee and the inquiry, Immigration and Citizenship, or we commonly call it as ICSA, administers the Citizenship Act 1978 and its regulation 1975 and its regulation 1976, the Migration Act 1978 and its regulation 1979, Passport Act 1982 and its regulation 1983, and until or since 2022, the Employment of Non-Citizens Act, a function that was transferred from the Department of Labor. So the authority administers those four legislations. Immigration's broader function or performs two broader functions, and that is border protection and nation building in a way, where border protection, we make sure that we only allow people to come in, or good people to come into our country. And when they're here, we make sure that they help to develop our country. So putting it just broadly that way, Chairman, the authority performs an important function as with other state agencies. With border protection, we are responsible, just to distinguish with customs, we are responsible for movement of people or managing movement of people, while customs and other state authorities regulators or regulate movement of goods. So just like to highlight that distinction, Chairman. My team and I are here, and we are happy to respond to any questions that the committee may present. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Simo. We'll reserve our questions to the back end after hearing the other presentations. I'd like to now invite the representative from IPA. It's not nobody. Okay, we'll move forward to the customs. PNG Customs Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, the honorable esteemed members of the committee as well. My name is Doniko Ropa, the director, one of the directors from Customs, and I'm standing in for our Chief Commissioner who's unable to make it because of illness. Now, thank you. Firstly, allow me to highly commend you, Chair, yourself, and the members of the committee for conducting this very important inquiry into this citizens meetup and some of the issues, which aim at strengthening our border agency collaboration and coordination, so that we can better protect our country, PNG, our economy, our community, and especially we can continue to advance the national interest of our people and protect it against the adverse impacts of transnational crime. Now, Chair, the PNG's border environment is increasingly complex. Customs, immigration, intelligence agencies, transport, defense force, police, quarantine, fisheries, transport. We all each play a very important role at the border. But the effectiveness of that role, the national response that we provide, depends very much on how well all these agencies work together, so that we can be able to say intelligence, we can be able to also have joint risk assessment, coordinated operations, common procedures, and of course adequate resourcing. And those are very critical things that I think you and the committee can be able to look into. Just basically, for the purpose of this, just quickly go through the overview of PNG Customs. Of course, PNG Customs is a premier border protection agency mandated to secure the national border, protect the community, facilitate legitimate trade and travel, and of course, collect revenue for the state. Its role is, of course, our role is very central to the national security and economic development, including public safety, because we regulate the movement of goods, the cargoes, vessels, aircraft, and passenger baggages, postal items, and commercial consignments entering and leaving Papua New Guinea. So our key core functions are border and community protection, trade facilitation, and revenue collection. These are the functions that enable PNG Customs to protect our country from the illicit drugs, firearms, prohibited and restricted goods, customs fraud, excise evasion, unlawful trade practices, and other forms of transnational crimes, while supporting legitimate business and investment and travel. So we basically, the primary act that empowers us is the Customs Act and the customs legislation, and we have all other legislations like the Excise Act and the Excise Tariff legislation, and of course the Papua New Guinea Customs Service Act, which caters for the administration of the organization itself. So basically, Chair, the threat environment, we are operating in a border environment where the threats or border risks include illicit drug trafficking, smuggling of prohibited and restricted goods, illegal movement of firearms and ammunition, transnational crime, organized crimes, trade-based money laundering, customs fraud and revenue evasion, and of course biosecurity and border integrity risks, human trafficking and people smuggling, illegal, unreported, and unregulated cross-border activities. Those are some of the key risks that we are actually operating against. So basically, just looking at our challenge, as you all know, our borders, maritime and border, land border, from the north down to south, with the Indonesian border, is, I'd say, is wide, as we all know, and it's vast and it's porous. And we are doing what we can do with the limited resource that we have to fight against, all those criminals that are working against us, especially at the border, including the threats. So some of the key challenges that we have is there's need for us to really look at, building our people and the workforce capability, and there are a whole lot of things that we can do under that big challenge. We also have these resources and operational assets, adequacy or sufficiency. We really need to have adequate resources, including the operational assets, so that we can effectively attend to threats at the border. And as we are advancing into the technology, the criminal world is also maximizing the use of technologies to also, commit crimes. So we will have to also look at also improving our technologies and the digital border systems, so that we can be able to respond effectively to the border threats. Another key things is the collaboration and cooperation with enforcement partners, not only here in, domestically, but also our regional and global partners, so that we can be able to leverage from some of the best practices they have so we can attend to those border threats and what. So there are some key recommendations that we have made, but Chair, I will leave it to you because that's contained in our formal submission that we have made and we have submitted to you, so you can have a look at that. But that's basically that, and thank you very much, Chair, and the honorable members of the committee. We look forward to taking any questions that may be asked for Customs. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Don. Thank you for this informative presentation. We'll come to questions later on. We'd like to hear from Mr. George, Secretary on the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee, and to all present this morning. It is a pleasure to be able to to be invited and come before the committee to provide a few insights into the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. Basically, providing a position of the department into this inquiry that's looking at PNG's citizenship system, its effectiveness and implications in relation to immigration, foreign-owned businesses, and transnational crimes. Whilst these positions of my departments may not be exhaustive or respond directly to the issues at hand, they, however, provide a leeway and an entry point into how the citizenship is effectively administered and regulated to ensure optimum results. So why is this important to the Department of Labor, Industrial Relations? The department has the legal and policy frameworks. It administers 15 pieces of labor laws and 3 new workplace policies. A large number of legislations imply the department's greater reach to employers and industries, the fabrics of society, being the workers and the population and our world of work. So from terms and conditions of employment to safety and health at the workplaces, from minimum wages to social protection, from effective industrial relations systems and processes to skills training, trades and certifications, etc., the department remains fundamental in ensuring there is growth in our economy in as far as labor, employment, and industrial relations is concerned. The Department of Labor and Industrial Relations in Papua New Guinea no longer manages the work permit system, Chair. That was transferred to the PNG ICSA in 2021. The department's current role focuses on workplace standards, employment policies, and 3-year training and localization plans, ensuring that foreign employment contributes to skills transfer and national workforce development. So the department's continuing role in those, after those reforms, that whilst we no longer issue work permits, we still retain critical responsibilities, and that's in relation to work standards. We're ensuring compliance with labor laws, fair treatment, and safe working conditions. 3-year training and localization plans, which requires companies employing foreign workers to outline how they will train Papua New Guineans to eventually take over those roles. And then employment services. Through the National Employment Services, NES, the department supports job seekers, employers, and labor market data collection. So in terms of effectiveness and improvements in the citizenship employment systems, PNG ICSA reforms, the introduction of digital sponsors portals, merging of work permits and visas, and the rollout of e-passports to modernize migration and citizenship services have contributed to, I guess, greater efficiency. Likewise, for my labor's contributions is that by enforcing localization and training plans, the department ensures that foreign employment, beg your pardon, benefits Papua New Guinea citizens rather than displacing them. So in terms of strategic alignment, the DLIR's labor market policies complement PNG ICSA's migration reforms, balancing national workforce development with controlled labor inflows. So I guess to conclude my opening remarks, the department's position is clear, Chairman and committee, and that's while the citizenship and migration reforms are now led by PNG ICSA, the Department of Labor ensures that foreign employment aligns with national workforce development goals through training, localization, and workplace standards. Together, these reforms aim to modernize Papua New Guinea's labor and migration systems while protecting opportunities for Papua New Guineans. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, George, Secretary. I believe we have IPA, Ms. Amelia, if I'm correct. If we can hear from you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. I'm Amelia Naro. I'm acting MD for a short while Mr. Clarence Sooth is on duty travel. I've been just called this morning to come in here. And Chair, this is my first time sitting in this committee, parliamentary committee meeting, and I might not give a long speech on that first few minutes, but I think in terms of citizenship matters, it's important in terms of the investment climate in this country, particularly to foreign investments. And as we know, Investment Promotion Authority deals with the certification of foreign businesses in this country, and hence vitally important to see, particularly as to how many foreigners enter this country, and whether or not, I think in the context of citizenship, is whether or not these foreign persons that are involved in businesses are citizens or not. I think in the context of business, there has to be a balance in terms of allowing foreigners into the country to do business, aligned with the citizen requirements of this country. So I think IPA believes in providing that balance, in overseeing foreigners into this country, at the same time ensuring that these foreigners comply to the laws of Papua New Guinea. And I think from that context is where IPA stands in its position in terms of addressing any citizenship issues in this hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amelia from IPA, and thank you for stepping in for the Managing Director. I'd like to commence this session by asking Governor Jufa to take lead in the leading questions. So we'll be asking questions to each of you, and basically to give clarity or emphasize more on a couple of more points that we want to take note of. So I'll invite Governor now to take lead in the questioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And good morning, all. Thank you all for turning up very early. Appreciate that. Amelia, sorry that you were just informed, but thank you for making it. So our committee hearing is one whereby we would like to engage with your organizations to see what are the issues affecting your organizations, what are the constraints, that affect the organization in delivering its services effectively or efficiently. What can be done so that it can improve its efforts and it can be, meet regional and international standards. That's essentially what we're hoping to achieve here. And, when we talk about citizenship, for me personally, if you're going to become a citizen of a country, that's the highest, honor that a country can accord to a person, who is a non-citizen. And many people in Papua New Guinea, are interested in becoming citizens for various reasons. And some are very genuine, they definitely deserve to become citizens. But there are also those who have non-genuine reasons. So how do we have how do we build a system, a robust system that can ensure that we focus on ensuring that those who are genuine, those who are coming into this country with good intentions are the ones that we can fast track. We can process their citizenship applications. We can ensure that they become citizens and they contribute to this, this great country of ours. At the same time, we are able to scan and determine those who have ulterior motives. Why are they coming into this country? And if they have ulterior motives, how do we ensure that they don't come into this country, or they do not come and operate in such a way that it's detrimental to the interests of our people and our country? That's essentially what we're hoping to achieve here. And I want to thank each and every one of you for making the time available. The public sector in our country is going through tremendous changes, changes that are forced upon us by what's happening in the region, in the world, technology, and how do we embrace that? But at the same time, how do we ensure that we are still maintaining who we are as a nation, as a people? So my questions will be quite general and broad, but basically looking at the capacity of your organizations. Your organizations are staffed with public servants, and how are these public servants operating in your organizations? What is happening in there that can improve their performance? For instance, that's what I'd like to hear from you as well. And then I want to understand the committee would like to understand the screening mechanisms that you have in place, to be able to monitor who's coming into our country. You're at the gates, the doorways of our country. So we're watching everyone that's coming in. Are they the right type of person, etc.? That's what we would like to hear from you on. Also, the working together. What's happening there? The connections that you have together, the sharing of intelligence, the joint operations. If you, for instance, if there's a bad actor that's detected by customs, guaranteed that bad actor is going to be behaving badly insofar as labor issues are concerned, insofar as IPA issues are concerned, insofar as migration issues are concerned, So how do you keep track of these characters so that eventually we usher them out, or we just don't allow them to operate in our country, Excuse me. So, just to give you a heads up on that. And then within your organizations, what mechanisms do you have to scrutinize the performance of your officers? For instance, do your organizations have a division dedicated to internal investigations so that it can investigate allegations of impropriety against public servants? Now, allegations of impropriety for the purposes of finding out the facts. So if they are public servants who are behaving badly, they're committing offenses, disciplinary or criminal, then how do you deal with that? Or if they're public servants that have been wrongfully accused, because that happens as well. In many instances, good public servants are wrongfully accused of a crime, and they need to be cleared, because oftentimes if you don't clear them, then it affects their career, it affects their life. So does your organization have something in place like that? What's your organizational structure like to determine this? Then we want to look at your benefits for your staff, welfare. Prior to the independence, if you went the length and breadth of Papua New Guinea, every public servant had a house. Even the most lowest ranking public servant, if you went to a station or district, they had a house. The driver had a house. The laborer had a house. Today, you fast forward to today, Most public servants don't have a house. They're living in settlements and in villages, and they're coming to work, and we're expecting them to be dedicated and loyal to building a country, but it's hard for them to be like this when they don't have a decent house. I want to hear from you on that. What about their health benefits, and what about their wages and salaries? We want to retain the best possible brains that are needed to build an economy, to build a country. Now, how are we doing that? Do we have reasonable, means to be able to take care of our public servants? And I would also like to hear from you on the revenues that each of your organizations collect from service fees, permits that you issue, and are those revenues sufficient enough to carry out your activities, especially enforcement activities? And finally, I would like to hear, what is your organization doing about the growing threat of transnational crime? Transnational crime is a very serious issue. We're on the gray list now. Why are we on the gray list? We're on the gray list because of failures, and all of us are responsible. I'm not saying politicians aren't. We've got the buck stops at the top, but down the line, let's find out where these gaps are, these weaknesses are, and how do we address them together. So sorry for that very lengthy speech, but I thought I would be clear so that we can have some understanding as to what our objectives are. I also want to point out that the Parliament has established a mechanism whereby parliamentary committee recommendations can then be attended to, and this is for the public, because the public are sick and tired of inquiries, I can tell you. They are really sick and tired of it. They're like, here's another inquiry. What's going to happen? Waste of time. Everyone come, blah, 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 hot air, and nothing happens. So I have personally raised this a number of times, and so have other members of Parliament, about what happens to these recommendations. We had the SABL recommendations. What happened to those, for example? Finance inquiry, well, some things are happening, but is it enough? And there are many other inquiries that have been held. They cost money. They take up a lot of time. What happens to these recommendations? So I'm very happy to announce, and this is an announcement that was made by the Parliament some time ago, but I think it was not effectively emphasized, that the Parliament, working with, I believe it's the United Nations, I may be wrong. When am I correct? Is it the United Nations? And they've put a system together so that these recommendations must be acted upon by the relevant agencies, by the relevant people responsible, by the relevant ministers, I would say. It should start there, So it's like if you watch Parliament sessions, you have grievance debate and questions without notice, and a lot of great ideas and questions are presented, but we always ask ourselves, what happens after that? Well, now the Parliament has a mechanism to be able to ensure that. What I would like to suggest to the Parliament, and their parliamentary staff listening, as well as UN reps, is that we need a tracking system that's available for the public, okay? Now, parliamentary committees are the ears, mouth, eyes of the people of Papua New Guinea. They're independent of executive government. That needs to be understood by the people. So we need a tracking system so that our people can see what's happening with these inquiries. After this, say for instance, after this particular inquiry, what's going to happen? There should be a set of responsibilities that come out of this, a task matrix that should go to the relevant agencies, including their ministers, so that they can ensure that we attend to this. This is where we're now putting the solutions to the problems that we have identified, So just wanted to clarify that. I understand that there are people throughout the country that are watching us, and most of our people are very critical because, and you can't blame them. They're critical because they've not seen anything come out of these inquiries. For us, Chairman and myself, and member for Northwest, as well as the rest of the members here, we are passionate about fixing a system so that, one, citizenship is granted to the right type of person that's coming to this country. Two, the relevant agencies are communicating and working together to monitor our gates so that the right type of people that are coming in are allowed, and those that are not the right type, and there are quite a few of those making a beeline for this country, I can tell you. And Papua New Guinea is like a beacon, sending out signals to transnational criminal organizations and individuals all around the world, and they're thinking that is a great place to go and make money because their systems are weak and they don't seem to be cooperating and they're not working the way they ought to. So we want to change that. Okay, so anyhow, thank you, Chairman, for entertaining me and allowing me to speak like this. But I think this is important. You know, this is important for our people to understand that their voice, their eyes and ears in Parliament is at work. Okay, I also want to take time to, thank the national government, the executive government, for funding the parliamentary committees and the efforts and ensuring that we're able to hold these meetings. We all have our responsibilities in our provinces and districts, but we try to make time available so that we can also contribute to this very important effort at holding executive government to account. So now, just to start with, firstly, Mr. Navasivu, thank you for your elaboration on what you do. I wanted to just find out from you, if I may, in your opinion, information and intelligence sharing, is there sufficient collaborative efforts to share information and intelligence when scrutinizing foreign citizens who are visiting, residing, working in, or seeking citizenship in PNG, from your perspective? And also, what do you think could be done to improve that situation? Is it a funding issue, or is it just a issue of lack of communication with your sister agencies, or what is it? That's my first question to you, if I may ask.
Thank you, Governor. I think a lot of agencies have come a long way and established statutory authorities. They became independent and are able to build their systems and structures. So talking from immigration perspective, yes, we have a dedicated intelligence branch. We have a dedicated intelligence branch and an dedicated investigation branch. And their functions are not mixed. Yep. We focus on training, and a lot of our staff have participated in joint training programs in PNG and abroad. We are privileged to attend trainings that are conducted by international organizations and foreign governments. Having capacitated those staff, I'm sure other agencies also have. I'm aware the customs and police have, and other agencies would have. We have information sharing MOUs with a lot of them. So currently with IPA, police, customs, and through that mechanism, I can confidently say that our intelligence sharing is, or the avenues are there, and officers share information on either criminal syndicates operating in PNG or abroad. If it's regional, we do have regional mechanisms in place. And from immigration, through the Pacific Immigration Network, we are able to connect with all the Pacific Islands, including Australia and New Zealand. So in terms of intelligence training, sharing, Chairman, I can say that we have the mechanism in place. If it's anything, it may be the officers not sharing that information. But that's the work that we, the heads need to do to make sure that intelligence sharing is done. So with that mechanisms already in place and within immigration, we use our officers or the tools that they have to monitor our borders. We have officers stationed in border areas and around the country. At the moment, in Mount Hagen, Ley, in Wotun and Daru, Buka and Narawa and Alotau. So we have immigration officers there, and we have immigration officers stationed abroad in Australia, China, and Philippines. So our information comes through these officers. In terms of monitoring, people coming in, our officers at the border, as you would note when you come in, those officers, an officer is mandated under the Migration Act to refuse entry of any foreigner that comes in there, and they are found to be non-genuine. And that's why you see officers asking one or two questions when somebody turns up at the airport. So there's a different line of defense. In a way, we have through our intelligence network, and if we have prior information about a person coming in, we can prevent them from boarding a flight. We can also stop them if they have boarded the flight and they come to the airport. So we have that mechanism. It's how the other agencies work with us. If police can request that they want us to prevent somebody from coming in, we can stop them from boarding the plane. Or if they had already arrived, we can send them back, or we can allow them in for investigation. You would note, Chairman, the DAC, the card that you fill in on arrival, that card also has provides us with information about a person. So when you fill it in, we know your information prior to your arrival, and if we have you on alert, that system can tell us that a person who's not supposed to be on the flight is already on the flight, or we can prevent the person from boarding. From the last removals that we did from alluvial mining, we monitor these people. When they complete the arrival card, we can stop them from getting on the plane. And that's why we give 72 hours so that it allows us time to make a decision. In terms of checking on, particularly on citizenship applications, a person's checks on the person's integrity is shared with, we seek clearance from police, IPA, IRC, it's a climate change, CCDA, I think. We get approvals from them or clearance from them. If any of them flag a person that he has an adverse report, that person, his application is brought before the Citizenship Advisory Committee, and the committee makes deliberate and makes a decision whether to allow that person to go to ministers for his decision, or to reject the application then. The citizenship process itself is robust. It is independent. So the CAC, or the Citizenship Advisory Committee, is established by the Constitution and administered through the Citizenship Act. The CAC committee members are 2 members of Parliament and 2 others who are public servants, and at this stage it's the Secretary for Justice and Attorney General and the Chief Migration Officer. The committee's responsibilities are clearly defined in the Constitution and in the Citizenship Act, and they only make recommendation based on the information that is presented to them. Administratively, within immigration itself, we have the citizenship branch that collects the information and process the information. They do the screening, and the Citizenship Secretariat administered the secretariat work. As a CMO and as a member of the CAC, I do not make a decision or even look at those applications to maintain that independence and integrity. It's something maybe at my disadvantage if something doesn't, paperwork or all that is not in order when it goes through. But to maintain independence, that's the way we operate. The minister's decision is based on committee recommendation. If the minister makes decision against the committee recommendation, he has to report to Parliament. He has to justify why a decision has been made against the committee's recommendation. Since 2016, Chairman, we have dual citizenship that come in place. So we have currently 8 different pathways, but one is naturalization, where a country or a person from another country who is not a prescribed country is holding or applying to hold PNG citizenship. Then there are different other 7 different pathways that also allow for dual citizenship. After the implementation of dual citizenship in 2017, it started implemented in 2017. A lot of Papua New Guineans who have lived abroad and want to come back to regain their citizenship have shown interest. This has resulted in an intake or uptake volume of applications coming through. And we had managed to, that volume has accumulated, and since last year we managed to go through a lot of those applications. There is another pathway where Papua New Guineans apply to hold foreign citizenship, but especially citizenship from the 8 different prescribed countries. This is where a Papua New Guinean who intends to apply to hold a foreign citizenship or prescribed country applies to the minister. Except this particular pathway, all the others applications are screened. They are received, they are screened, and put through the application process. That's from officer screening after clearance from the respective clearance departments and authorities, and then sent through Citizenship Advisory Committee. And the recommendation is made to the minister to make a decision. A ceremony is the last, more or less, a formality where we confer the citizenship certificates to the recipients.
Oh, thank you, CMO. Just going back to, and I commend the organization for deporting quite a number of persons that were unlawfully in the country, I would say. How many in total did your organization deport, say, this year?
Chairman, I can't say from the top of my head. These numbers keep changing. But I can say, all right, so just got the numbers. In 2025, around 205, and this year, about 178.
And CMO, when they are deported, are they blacklisted? So they cannot come back again? Is that a function, or is there a mechanism for that within your organization?
That's more or less a part of the business process. Once we deport a person, they must be immediately placed on alert. And alert is managed by our border management system. So it can be triggered through an application for a visa, or it can be triggered when a person arrives at the border. But the DAC that I mentioned earlier is another mechanism where a non-citizen who's been deported, and we register his details on the DAC or on the BMS. The trigger is activated when he fills out the form.
Does your organization pass all that information of these persons of interest to your sister agencies so that they can also see if these are persons that are being processed by their organizations? Say, for instance, I'm assuming that once they're their visas are cancelled, then their work permits will also be cancelled, and they should also be referred to IPA and customs and other agencies, so that these persons are no longer allowed to operate in any way, shape or form in this country. Is that something that is currently in place or not yet?
I can confirm, Chairman, that that we have written or
Okay.
referred those names, some names. With the Chinese, we're working very closely with the Chinese embassy.
Oh.
And they had actually prevented a lot of these people that we deported from even getting a passport. They confiscated their passports, so they're not able to come back.
Thank you. I want to just focus on that. So the Chinese government has taken its own actions, excuse me, excuse me, to prevent, or against its own citizens, to prevent them from. That's quite remarkable and commendable. That's, that's probably something that we would like all the other countries to do, if they can stop their citizens from also, coming to our country if they are found to be behaving this way. Is that what happened?
That's correct.
Very good. CMO, thank you. The cost of doing all these, carrying out these activities, it's quite costly. The costs, continue to increase, I would imagine. So in your opinion, do the funds you receive as an organization, is that sufficient? The grants that you get from the government, is that sufficient for you to be able to meet your responsibilities? And perhaps you can also elaborate on the fees that your organization does collect, permit fees and license fees, other service fees that you charge. Where do these funds go? Do they assist you in carrying out your organization's activities? Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Thank you, Governor. There's a matter that's very dear to us at the moment, as it's affecting our operations. I'll just go back one step to 2010, when the Immigration and Citizenship Service Act gave way to the establishment of the authority now. Under that law, Section 4 of that law has 11 objectives. And one among them is rid corruption, make sure we protect our borders, will be self-sufficient funding, and look after the training of staff and welfare of staff. That's all in the law. Fast forward to 2022, and especially this year, when the Non-Tax Revenue Administration Act was passed. The government has swept all our revenue. Now the law allows us, that's the ICS Act, allows us to collect fees, fines, and penalties. And it provided for a 50-50 sharing arrangement where ICSA would keep 50 and give 50 to the state. From 2016 onwards, I think 17, the state had begun to diminish or remove our funding. I'm saying 2016, but I can, yeah. So they removed from 50% to 40% to 20%, sorry, 30%. And since 2022, the enactment of the Non-Tax Revenue Administration Act and the instrument subsequently was issued to give us only 10%. So we have 90-10 sharing arrangement now. Chairman, this has severely affected our operation. Now just let me share an example of how much we spent last year in our operations. And that ICSA had spent about 85 million to our operations. That includes removing those illegals. But that's not all. The ICS Act since the implementation of the authority, ICSA has not been given any funding from budget. So we don't get budget. We plan our budget, we submit our budget, but we don't get appropriation since 2010. So ICSA has never been given any budget for operation, and we only operate from our the revenue. Now,
which is 10%.
This year, 10%. So, Chairman, since January, 2014, 25, while our operation cost was about 85 million, we generated through those non-tax revenue 214 million. So much of that money is kept by the state. This year, up until end of June, we generated over 100 million for the state, and only given 10% of that, which is 10 million. As a result of that, Chairman, at the beginning of this year, I had taken cost-cutting measures, stopped staff from taking leave. We had scaled down of our enforcement and compliance operation, and cut down on fuel usage, removed all the hire cars, and a lot of other cost-cutting measures that were implemented this year. We've taken audits on our system and took measures to stop certain nationalities from getting visas and coming in. So our system has blocked all countries on the African continent because of the risk that we had to mitigate, and certain visas on all other nationalities. We expect this to affect the revenue that we generate for this year, but the volume is increasing, Chairman. So in terms of our operations, we only reacted this year on the Waubulolo case and able to get those people out. But there are 39 registered companies, mining companies around the country, and possibly more. And we took measures to prevent people from applying through those companies on our system, so they can't get any visa. And these people had gone ahead to register other companies, or they have been employed by other companies and still come in. And that's why while we are sweeping people out from Waubulolo, more are still going in.
Thank you, CMO. So let me get this straight. Whilst the workload increases, the revenues that you used to have available to carry out your duties have decreased. Is that the proper description of what's happening here? Is that
I'd say the workload increases, the revenue increases, but our share of the revenue decreased.
That's what I meant. Your workload has increased, the revenues you're collecting has increased, but the revenues apportioned to your organization has actually decreased significantly.
That's correct.
And this has obviously affected your ability to be proactive, to be moving around the country, monitoring and carrying out your enforcement duties. Is that a correct assumption?
That's correct, sir.
Now, CMO, these individuals that come and work for these companies and breach our laws, do we have any laws in place to compel the companies that are accommodating them, when the individuals that are accommodating them, do we have any laws in place to fine them? So for instance, if you were to pick up, let's say, Mr. Smith, okay, he's operating illegally in Bulolo, and he's operating under a particular company and a work permit, and someone sponsored or vouched for him to come into this country. Those persons responsible, including that company, can they be held responsible? And they should be forced or compelled to pay for the entire cost of the effort to detect him and deport him. Is that a mechanism we have in place, or we don't have that yet?
We have the law in place that holds the sponsors responsible for repatriation of those people. The challenges go beyond just a sponsor. We've got the lawyers out there trying to make money. And that's the biggest challenge we have. So a lot of those people that we come to deport them have been released because of court orders. So that's our biggest challenge. While the sponsors are compelled, and we can take them to be responsible for repatriation, they run to the lawyers. And that's where our biggest challenge is.
So probably something for the legislators to think about, where we can put these laws in place so that when persons, I mean, from my understanding of the law, and I'm maybe wrong, if someone's illegally in this country, the first thing is they should be detained, because their presence in the country is unlawful. And to allow them to be at large would be to allow them to commit an ongoing offense, which we shouldn't allow. So they should be detained. I believe you have facilities at Bomana to do that. But what you're saying is that the process of going to court and appearing in court and, whilst fighting this out, it is a costly effort. Is that what you're saying? So if a law were to be created whereby once a person is found to be illegally in the country, he is not entitled to a lawyer because he's illegally in the country to start with. It should be just a very quick process whereby he's detained and eventually deported, or he can be prosecuted and then detained further at Bomana, which is what I would prefer. Put them in general population. It'll be a very nice deterrent. After the news gets out, nobody will want to come here anymore, Yeah, but thank you very much, CMO. Now, the shrinking of your budget, does that affect your staff welfare and benefits, like overtime and insurance and housing and issues like that? Is it affected also? Because if you're telling me that you no longer get any funds, if ICA does not get funds or grants from the government, then you have to struggle with what little you can get. How do you take care of your staff? Just give your honest opinion, and how would you like to see that change?
Thank you, sir. Just let me take one step back and acknowledge the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable John Rosso, and my current Minister, William Bando. They have gone, even our Prime Minister has written to Treasurer to help us release at least a sizable or a percentage bigger than 10%. And from what I was told by the record that we've got through my minister, former minister and now current minister, that the Treasury would have already given us 40%. That 40% has not reached us yet. But in terms of how it affects or the result of cutting that funds, it will severely affect us. So we're lucky that our pay goes through the normal public service pay. And that's where I think we suffer less than other state or authorities. But our operations get affected. And particularly, Chairman and members, I'd like to highlight some important project. That includes staff welfare as well. But our e-passport. So here we want to acquire our country's first e-passport. We've gone through all the process of getting International Civil Aviation Organization compliance, so ICAO compliance. They've conducted audits. And we consulted with US, Australia, UK, Canada on how and where we can get that e-passport. All that process is done. Thank you for your help in passing the Passport Act last year. That set us now in a good stead to proceed with the e-passport project. With our calculation, this project will cost 80 million kina. And we need immediately about 39 million kina to start off. We can't implement that. With e-passport will come e-gates. With e-passport will come integrity on our IDs. And who knows, would be able to access Australian e-gates when you travel, or other e-gates. So that project is affected. We can't get it implemented. We had initially planned for it to take off December 2026 or first quarter 2027. That can't be done at this stage with this lack of funding. We have an ongoing staff welfare, including housing and staff salary. So staff housing policy has been implemented since 2024. We couldn't even implement it through now with cutting of our funding. We have in the pipeline as well, Chairman and committee members, our own purpose-built office. This is something that has gone through our board, and Mr. Taunaka K sitting here is a member of our board. The board has approved all these projects, and we can't get them implemented. Last week, we started work on our staff salary. So I've got 420 positions. About 320 have been filled in. And a lot of these people work very hard working at the airport. They wake up in the morning and go to the airport. They need to be sleeping, and they need to be housed. They need to be accommodated. They sleep at their own house and go to work. So far, we are not able to give us one staff a house yet. We did take steps to giving land for them to build, but giving land is just one part. They need money to build it, and our policy option has provided that for staff to participate in it, but they can't because of our lack of funding.
CMO, thank you very much for that very thorough snapshot of the situation your organization is currently having to endure. And Chairman, that's all for me from the CMO. I would like all of you to probably put together a document essentially summarizing what we've just spoken about, the state of your organization, the constraints that you face, the technological improvements that your organizations are striving to undertake so that we can be regionally or internationally, at the same level, and the constraints that you face with your staff, point out the funding constraints as well as the fact that you do generate revenues. And I'd like you to be very explicit in how much revenues your organizations generate for yourselves that you have to forego, because I think personally that this is a communication issue here. There's a lack of understanding here. The executive government needs to understand that in order for our staff to be out there diligently performing their duties, they need to be taken care of. And you need the funding to carry out your operation so that you can be able to implement these reforms, these changes. At the same time, I want you to think about laws that we can, existing laws that you are responsible for administrating or enforcing. What can be done to amend these laws so that, one, they can be, more of a deterrent factor to the type of actors that we are targeting, or we can have the criminals pay for their crimes, because many of them come here and they commit an offense and they get away with it. They get a little slap on the wrist, a small fine, and then they run off to another part of the country and they register another company and, they do things like that. So if possible, in the interest of time, if the chairman can, and my colleague can agree to have those submissions put together, it's very important, and be explicit. You know, we have a culture in Papua New Guinea where mipla sa leslo tok lo, you know, all line where mipla feel some all big line. Okay, we don't want to highlight. No, we have to be explicit, because how else can we help you if you aren't explicit? You be as thorough as possible, and we need to take this to the executive government and have them act on it. You know, I mean, if just, sorry, I'll sum up, but if your organization's collecting 200 million a year, example, you know, 80 million for operations, that 80 million should be immediately taken out of that 200 million, and then, you know, I wouldn't even touch that. If I were executive government, that 200 million is sufficient enough to take care of your housing, your welfare, your benefits, and implement this very important technological reforms that we need so that we can be on par with the rest of the region and the world. You know, and I bet if we do that, you'd see that 200 million increase to, you know, probably double that, because you'd have, you know, staff out there actually working efficiently. There'd be more traffic, there'd be more activities. Yeah, so thank you very much, CMO. Chairman, if I may, just one discussion that one point that I wanted to raise with IPA. Very good point that I feel needs clarification on, and this is an opportunity to do that. Many times Papua New Guineans ask, here's a company that behaves badly, you know, say company ABC, they're in the import-export business, let's just say, you know, and they've behaved badly. Now, companies are made of people. They're not existing entities, even though there are those who like to believe so. But it's people in those companies that, you know, either determine whether the company is going to be behaving properly in accordance with the country's laws or in breach of them. So in instances where companies and their individuals that are working in there, their directors, shareholders, managing director, etc., when they break a law, it seems that many of these actors continue to remain in our country. And they re-register another company, and you know, they're back at it again, doing something else. You know, so what does your organization do, or what is it doing to try to address that particular issue? And also, you might want to just elaborate on the fact that whilst you register a company so that it can operate in a country, the company's ability to trade, that's the responsibility, I believe, of the provinces. You know, so many people don't understand that. So provinces actually, and I've discovered this just, you know, some time ago, and we're working in my province to address this, so that while a company may be registered by IPA, for instance, but if they're going to come into our province, and then we're going to scrutinize them, and we want to build a liaison facility within our administration so that it can liaise with all your organizations, and say, for instance, we see one of these bad actors, and he comes up, if we ask George and say, oh yeah, he's misbehaved before under this company, or we ask Donnie with customs and they say, yeah, he's got bad imports, exports here, or Wellington might say, he was associated with this person we deported. We will use that to reject his application for a trading license. And if we do that, then that's one way where we tighten the system, so that the provinces can stop these characters from turning up and operating in their provinces. So I just wanted, Amelia, if you can, you know, just a, you know, general conversation about this, and then give your thoughts as to how your organization can, you know, better perform its duties and responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jufa. Your question is in relation to persons, foreigners that are involved in companies that don't comply with laws, if I'm correct. In terms of IPA's responsibility with regard to such situations, it's more confined to the laws that it administers in terms of the Companies and the Business and Associations Act. So where, let's say, a director is non-compliant, then in particular the rules of the company's laws then apply. Apply in that sense. And in terms of your question in relation to bad activities. Sorry, Mr. Jufa, did you mean in terms of you mentioned bad behavior. That
for example,
yes.
say for instance you've got Mr. Smith, our favorite non-citizen, and he comes in here and suggests that he's going to be involved in the import-export business, operating out of Waigani, but then he's in WOW doing gold.
Yes.
So that's bad behavior. You know, he's misled the country because he claimed he was going to come and do import-export, but there he is in WOW Bulolo operating gold. So how do you deal with that type of character? What do you do? Do you blacklist them? Do you immediately cancel their shareholding or their whatever, and then do you inform labor so that they can cancel his work permit or migration so that they can also deal with him? You know, what happens to Mr. Smith? Or is he allowed to just do whatever he wants in this country, walk around, move around, do as he pleases? What do you do? What does your organization do?
So the Investment Promotion Authority, in terms of foreign investors coming into the country, there's a process involved in terms of certification. So when a company comes in and a foreign investment company, he has to comply with certain processes within IPA. So he applies for what they call a certification. And that goes through a process within IPA in a unit called Foreign Certification Unit. That application is processed, and it goes, so I'll just go through the process, Mr. Juva. It's checked, all the processes. As you know, we deal with, Mr. Juva, my sincere apologies, let me start again. So the Investment Promotion Act deals with foreign certification of companies, and there is a process involved in how to apply for a foreign company and the assessment that it goes through eventually to approval. So there's a foreign certification body in the Investment Promotion Authority that assesses all of these applications in terms of, one, its activities, number two, its location, number three, the directors, number four, whether or not it's employing citizens or non-citizens, number five, the requirement of a certain threshold of 100,000 that should be in the bank account. Number six, whether it complies with the labor laws or it complies with any sectors of the industry, for instance, mining, where where it's supposed to be, if it's, let's say, mining, it should comply with MRA requirements. If it's fisheries, it should comply with NFA, or just trade in NCD, density requirements. So for instance, when an applicant comes and it says, I want to operate in WOW, and we give them a 6 months period. To identify, if they don't identify a location, we gave them a 6 months period to identify a location first. After that, when they identify a location, they write to the authority to variate and give a precise location of their registered business location. And that's taken as it is, and it's recorded. Now, in the event where this particular company, having been certified already, but decides to move to another location, under the IPA Act, the company owner must apply for a variation, saying I'm deciding another location, so it must apply for a variation. But in the event it does not apply for a variation, and then it moves to another location, and in the event IPA, let's say, does a spot inspection, which comes under the roles and responsibility, finds out that, oh, you're not in the location you're supposed to, then it penalizes the company. It gives a penalty to the company to do that. In terms of taking an extra action according to the Act, should the company continue to disobey, let's say, the instructions given by the authority, then the authority has the right to cancel that application. Cancel that application, yes. But in the event they do apply after 6 months and it's late within the time period, usually the IPA provides a penalty for not informing the authority, and that penalty can be around 1,000 or 4,000. It's not a lot. But in terms of, I think, taking matters to court, I have not seen that to my knowledge. We've not taken them to court. It's more penalizing the company in terms of not informing the authority of your change of location. And that's as far as I think IPA moves into in terms of trying to deal with that particular kind of situation. Yes, but a lot of the rules that businesses should operate are within the ambit of the laws that we administer. So, for instance, if you're a director, you are liable to certain actions, maybe not holding your shareholder meeting and all of that. So the companies are coming to play in that aspect. So I think it varies depending on the domestic and the foreign businesses when you application of law.
Thank you very much, Amelia. A lot of work, and you've got so many companies out there. I can't imagine how you can scrutinize, each and every one of them. I guess what would most likely happen is if you get reports. If someone makes a report or an allegation, then that's how you would probably react. Does your organization charge, you obviously charge, fees. Do you retain all of those fees for your operations, or is any of it, does it make it back to the government, or how does your organization fund its activities? And, if you can maybe just give a minute on that.
Thank you, Honorable Juva. I think that's a very important question for the authority. The authority was funded by government until up to 2016, when the government decided that IPA should fund its own activities, fund its own operations according to the fees generated. And hence, since 2016, IPA has been self-funding without any government support. And I think the IPA has a very good board, if I may say that, and has very conservative spending ability. So we've had unqualified reports, audit reports, 16 up to 2022, and the authority has been managing its finances very well, given the non-funding by government, but have been sustained through the self-generation. And we've been doing that very well until the NTRA came into existence. And the demand for the government to take a percentage of the revenues. Initially, the entire determination to the IPA was 10/90, that the IPA would retain 90 and the finance would get 10%. The Investment Promotion Authority had some discussions with the Treasury, and eventually they did a redetermination again, and they gave a 25-75 ratio. So the government gets 25 and 75 is retained. As of last year, 2025, all our bank accounts have been taken by Treasury, and they've been taking the ratio as determined.
So Amelia, the
Yes.
75-25 is working?
Yes, yes. So the government is now, they've taken all our bank accounts, IPA bank accounts. They're signatories to those bank accounts. So when we generate revenue, it goes to those particular bank accounts. So we've given all the signatory over to
Powers to Treasury.
Yeah, to Treasury. So they're taking all of that, all of the revenues, and they give us 75. And that's been going on since 2025.
You get 75%?
We retain 75% and the government gets 25%.
Is that sufficient to fund the operations, the 75%?
I think it is a challenge for IPA. IPA has sustained itself very well in 2016. And so when the NTR came into existence, it has challenged the authority to strategize on how it should manage the 75% of revenues. And I think it's a management strategy to see how it can be able to live within that 75 and manage it well throughout. But the IPA strongly feels that we should be able to retain the 100% given the kind of work that we do in terms of investment, in terms of business registrations and enforcement. I think it's very important that we retain 100%, not only to run operations, but also to manage staff welfare and benefits.
So another quick question, sorry Amelia. Do you get that 75% on time?
I think in the last, if I can recall, we did, I think, at the first time, but I'm not sure now as to whether or not we're getting that quickly at a turnaround time. That is one question we asked Treasury in terms of how fast can the funds be remitted back to IPA, because that's a very big concern that if you don't remit those funds quickly, then we're handicapped to do some of the work that we are supposed to do regarding funding. And I think that's a process that, in my opinion, Treasury should clearly define as to how fast the remittance process is in terms of this NTRA. So, yes, so I think it's a challenge and an impediment to efficiency in terms of services to the public.
Chairman, if I may, something this committee seriously needs to look into, because the chief immigration officer has the same concerns as Amelia as well. So it's something that this government needs to seriously address. Otherwise, you will have authorities and agencies, really struggling, especially when they are collecting inadequate revenue to sustain themselves.
Thank you very much, Amelia. It's good to hear from you on. Again, we are making an effort to try to, zero in on what are the challenges facing your organizations and your staff, so that what are the impediments that prevent it from being as effective and as efficient as it could be. So these statements are very important. Again, I'll emphasize, if you can condense them into written reports, speak freely. The parliamentary committees, again, we will emphasize to the executive government and that they will appreciate this, because I said earlier that there seems to be a lack of communication about an understanding of what funding situations organizations go through. Thank you very much, Amelia. George, Labor. So perhaps hearing from your colleagues, you could probably also elaborate on the challenges that you face, etc., and the constraints that you have, revenue issues, staffing issues, etc. Maybe 5 minutes, and then we can move to Donny in the interest of time. Yeah.
Thank you, Governor and Chair. For for the Department of Labor, we are a line agency. We are not an authority. So we rely on the national budget like all other departments and agencies. So our our budgets are always not what we asked for or not what was appropriated. So we are constantly in the mode of revising and updating our work plans so that we try and fit into the money that comes down to us monthly, if they do come down monthly. Currently, we did not receive funding for June and July. We're approaching halfway through August, and we're still waiting for our warrants. So that puts us in a very difficult situation, and this is one of the big challenges we face every year. Previously, since before 2021, we had the work permit function with the department, but the government made a policy decision to move that to PNG ICSA, and we no longer have the opportunity to use those non-tax revenues that we once were able to. At the moment, we collect fees, fines, and penalties from trade testing, from training, from occupational safety and health area. That has a potential to generate a lot of revenue for the country, but we are in the process of reforms at the moment. There are currently 4 legislations from pre-independence that govern occupational safety and health. We are working with the ILO it's a priority activity for us to modernize our occupational safety and health laws. We are almost ready to submit the national OSH policy through the processes so that that will finally inform the OSH bill that needs to be pushed through as well. But that OSH is a potential revenue earner for the government and the department, if you like. We have an inspection function that we have created in our labor administration area, and it's all the functions of the department that have an inspection function. We brought them into. We will be, when we go out for inspections, we make sure that we go with the other functions and that have an inspection function. So it's a combined labor inspection that we normally go on. But at the moment, like I mentioned, Governor, we are left to the mercies of the powers that be in terms of funding that we require. So we are seriously challenged in terms of doing our mandated inspections and ensuring there is compliance and conformance out there in terms of all the labor laws. So that is a challenge we're facing. We're at the moment going through a reorganization, renewal. We're trying to build our capacity both here at the head office and in our provincial establishments. We are trying to bring new staff in if it's possible and to develop skills and competence so we are able to go out and do our mandated roles and responsibilities properly. We're working with the ILO to develop our processes. We're using trying to introduce IT and develop tools to help our inspectors when they go up and get real-time feedback on what they find out in the provinces. But this is all work in progress, and like I pointed out to the committee, Labor Department is a line department, so we rely on what the government, what Treasury will give us every month, and we work from there. We would like to first of all get our appropriations on time. Sometimes we would like to get the appropriations as was sort of highlighted, but using a very simple example, we ask for 100 kina, we get only 50 kina. So that's not a very good way to do business, but this is something that's we encounter in the public service. Labor is no exception. So perhaps I'll stop on that note, and happy to answer more questions if needed.
Thanks, George. Very quickly, staff welfare and benefits. How's the situation with your department? Do staff have decent housing? Do they have good health care? What's the situation, and how could that be improved?
Thank you, Governor. The department is like every other line department. We are paid according to the government's salary and wages policy. So even if we wanted to incentivize our positions monetarily, we are restricted by the government policy that's in place now to pay public servants. We don't have a housing scheme, so we don't have accommodation for our staff. That is something that under the previous minister, Honorable Kesi Sawang, something that we had planned to pursue, but we were not able to do that. But the department and ministry is really keen on trying to take the first step forward in trying to come up with a housing scheme, perhaps, or even continue to build and upgrade our infrastructure out there in the provinces. At the moment, we don't have a standalone head office of our own. We are renting from the private sector, and this is in line with the assistance of GOEC and the Department of Finance, I guess, who pay the rents on behalf of the department. But we have offices in at least 5, I think, offices in the provinces that have been closed by the landlords because we are just unable to pay the rent. And GOEC has been slow. Government office allocation has been slow in taking care of some of the bills. So some of our offices are locked out. So our services, labor services, is affected as a result. But this all comes back to funding from the national budget. We don't get enough budget as appropriated every year. And I think that leads to some of the performance issues in the department itself. And we try our best to try and manage under those circumstances, but it's not the ideal way to look after your people who are the very important people in the organization that need to be supported, be looked after, so they're able to implement the government priorities as we have captured in our work plans annually. Thanks.
George, very quickly, is there a plan for the agency to become an authority similar to your other sister authorities? I'm just thinking from the top of my head, you already are responsible for various activities for which you could charge reasonable fees, permits, licenses, etc., inspection fees, etc., and that could generate revenues that could definitely assist you in addressing this. Has your organization thought about how this can happen and possibly, you know, elevate your organization from a department to a authority. In that way, you could then be able to collect those revenues. Again, we'd be facing the Non-Tax Revenue Act, which I must clarify, I feel that that act has been very detrimental to the interests of Papua New Guineans in general, because it has affected the operations of many of these organizations that, you know, can't seem to get out and do their work because they simply don't have the funds. Is that a fair, you know, statement to make, George? And is that something you feel that your organization can benefit from, moving into becoming an authority?
For the department itself, it's a regulator under the different acts that we administer. There's one or two areas that, as part of the reforms under the labor law reforms, there is a opportunity to move in to become an authority, like the. We have 7 statutory offices under the Ministry of Labor. You have Office of Workers' Compensation, then you have the Public Service Tribunals, then you have the National Apprentice and Trade Testing Board, the Independence Fellowship Scheme, Office of the Industrial Registrar, and then you have the National Tripartite Consultative Council. This is a body that is housed under the department, and because Papua New Guinea is a member of the ILO, we are obligated under the Constitution to have that council in place. So it's a standalone sort of statutory office under the ministry. But in terms of revenue generation, I think under the OSH area, there is potential for generating more revenue. And even under our labor admin services, one of our major labor law reforms is to change our Employment Act and the regulations that govern it. It's work in progress at the moment, but there's going to be a major overhaul of that act, and hopefully the fines and penalties under that act, can be put up to reflect the market situation, so that that's an opportunity where we can also generate revenue. But I'm not sure for labor inspections whether it can be an authority or not. Is something that we still working to try to determine. But I think the potential is there for us to generate revenue, and if possible, use some of that revenue to help in the operations of the department's different functions.
Thank you very much, George. And finally, last but not least, Mr. Kaupuro and my favorite organization.
Thank you, Honorable Governor Juffer, and the chair and members of the committee. For PNG Customs, on the staff, on the organizational staff side, I think welfare side, I'll say that the staff ceiling is we have about 1,137 is our organizational staff ceiling, but we are currently operating at almost half. We have 538 officers that they stationing across 22 ports at our sea, air, and land border across the nation. So basically, that's in terms of the staff welfare. The pay is just like the public service. The policy is already there, so we just getting the pay that is already fixed to the public service scenario policy. Except that we are paying another 12%. I think they've given us another 12% service allowance, which gets to compensate the risks and all the hardships that are faced by the customs officers out there at the border, to make sure that they incentivized to continue to do the good work they are doing out there to protect our borders. So that's that. For the housing, yes, I'd like to thank our good the Minister, Honorable Treasurer, including the Prime Minister, who has been very vocal for our housing. So they did give us some money, and our housing scheme is currently in progress, but we are yet to actually realize that. But I'd say It's currently in progress. For medical insurance for our officers, yes, we did roll out the medical insurance back in 2024, but 25 and 26 we haven't due to funding constraint. But we do actually subsidize, especially for our officers when they are actually referred to hospitals where they have to go for medical. The severe cases we do assist our officers in terms of the medical assistance, not as opposed to those no more general illness. But that's basically how in terms of the staff welfare in customs. In terms of the budget, of course, like my good friend has said, we ideally we know how best we can operate, and we ask for 100, but we get 50, so we have to operate with the limited resource that we have. And what we did was taking a smarter approach in terms of making the most out of that limited resource, and that's what we have is that we have in place a risk management strategy. So through our intelligent risk-based operation, we ensure that much of our resources, the limited resources, are spent on those risky areas, whilst those non-risky areas are BAU or business as usual. So we use so that we continue our business. So I think that's the approach that we take in terms of using our limited budget or resource to make sure that we are doing the best out of the limited resource that we have. So we're not just sitting there to what, but the need for us to actually have more resources, more funding is there. I'd say that it's there so that we can properly respond to the border threats, border risks. And once when we have a good secure border, the revenue inflows is coming in terms of RC, customs, and everybody, so that's good things about, making sure that we work together to make sure that our border is, ensuring there's a legitimate trade, legitimate crossing of, legitimate people crossing over our border as well to do business here in our country. So from customs, that's basically that. We are also currently reviewing our law, the Customs Act, and basically what we are doing is we are aligning with the best practices, within the region and of course the global as well. And one of the key things that we are doing is, and the governor and the members of the committees, we are looking at, increasing especially the penalty regime, so that now the current regime is back then, but when we colonial laws, I would say, so that the penalties are very, very, I'd say they paid and they can continue to, repeat the same offense. So it's important that we go to review those laws and increase the penalties. When we increase the penalties, then we send a strong message. We strengthen the laws, and the application is very strong. With the current regime, they are still paying and they're still roam around. They come back and do the same. So
Donnie, just very quickly, I'll interrupt. Yes, you've identified the issue with the penalty regimes. Has your organization made a submission for those penalty regimes that are currently in place to be reviewed?
Yes, yes, Governor. Earlier, we have done some amendments, and we have really increased our penalty regimes, especially in terms of the smuggling of tobacco, those high-value commodities. Alcohol, illegal manufacturing, all that, we have increased it. But now
what about illicit substances like drugs, guns?
The drugs and guns, those were also increased. But now we are looking at, because of the now increase of that, through the current review, we're trying to really increase it, so that in that way we can send a deterrent, message. So that's basically what we are doing through the current review.
Thank you. Did the NTRA affect you at all, your organization?
Not at all, Governor.
Okay, so the CASTA is still in operation?
CASTA is, of course, is in operation, and it's really supporting us well in terms of our operation. Yeah.
With your staff, to do with the staff ceiling, where you mentioned that you only have half.
Yep.
How long has this been the case?
Has been for a number of years now, since 2014. But we are doing, because of the government's limited funding or cash flow issue, we are doing like progressive recruitment. So this year we are looking at, now we have money to, we've been given money to recruit another 20, and next year will be another 30 or 40. So we are doing a progressive recruitment.
Thank you very much, Donny. That's basically all from me, Chairman, and Honorable Lohia on these matters. The other thing that I would like to just ask if you can add in your reports is, do you have an officer that's responsible for liaising with FASU? You've all heard of FASU, I'm aware. So it would be your intelligence or the division within your organization that's responsible for intelligence. And I want to know what's that specific officer's name? Is that officer responsible for liaising with FASU? And if they aren't, then why not? And what are you doing about that? What actions will you be taking so that there is a liaison mechanism with FASU? And what is your organization, what steps are you taking to counter transnational crimes from your perspective? So maybe if you could include that in your reports. And thank you very much, Chairman. That's from me.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, liaisons, for your responses. Any questions?
Yeah, not just maybe one or two. Quick question to Mr. George Towner KK. I also get that the workers' comp levy would be the similar. It goes back to the Treasury.
Yeah. Thank you. The workers' comp insurance levy is still operational. That is what the Office of Workers' Compensation uses for its to fund its operations and all that. Yeah, they receive a percentage of it. I'm not really familiar with the percentages, but they do operate using that funding. Yes.
Okay, but the entire funding goes to Treasury and then they give a portion back, or it's.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. I can clarify that in my report after this to the committee.
Yeah, just after hearing from all the questions coming from the governor, it's very clear that there's a lot of going and a little bit coming back, and it's a great deal of concern that that's become an impediment to progress of this, especially these three departments or agencies. A quick question to Amelia on the when we had the reserve businesses. I don't mean to be very. We see a lot of trade stores being looked after by foreigners. So is there a bit of clarification on that? I thought things like trade stores were for reserved for Papua New Guineans only. So
thank you, Honorable Samuel. Yes, there's currently the IPA has been working on the reserved activities list, and they've been consulting with certain stakeholders, trying to establish what sort of sectors should be reserved. And I think the IPA has a list already, and I believe that's still in consultation. But the trade stores should be reserved. There is a reserved activity for Papua New Guineans. And I think that's an area that we need to look into, and how to enforce persons that enter into reserved activities. I think that's an area that Investment Promotion Authority has to work in enforcing that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Loy, and of course, thank you, Governor, for taking lead in the questions. Basically, I'll try to summarize and maybe one or two questions. As you know, we've been listed on the gray listing basically because lack of collaboration between agencies. And so I'm pleased to hear that we have an MOU in place between the agencies as a mechanism in place to collaborate and work together in addressing some of the common challenges. Just a question to the CMO. With this MOU, does the joint task force is it captured in this MOU, and who oversees the joint task force in this?
Thank you, Chairman. The Joint Task Force was established, I think, around 2017 by NEC 14. And the NEC decision did list a number of key agencies to be part of that Joint Task Force. And if I can recall, immigration was mentioned to at least start with the Secretariat, hosting the Secretariat work. Now the NEC also approved in that decision some amount of money to start the work of the Joint Task Force. I can recall that there was no actual money appropriated to carry out the work. But the MOUs that we have with other agencies, the latest MOU that is signed with the SEZ, were all, well, ICAC and SEZ were the last ones that we signed, were all information sharing. We are currently working with police to review that MOU and include provisions to allow for joint resource sharing and capacity building provisions in there to help us. But in the absence of these MOUs, joint collaboration or spot check should be able to be executed, and we continue to do that. The latest inspection, joint inspection with IPA, led by IPA, but all the other agencies also participated in East New Britain. And the last one from Wau Bulolo was with immigration-led inspection, but police did provide cover or security for immigration staff. So in terms of the MOU, they're all information sharing, but we can amend them to put, especially with police and customs or the others, some resource sharing where we make it available. I did discuss with the acting police commissioner on the weekend for us to conduct inspection using their resources, both getting into areas inaccessible by land, and it requires a lot of resourcing. So yeah, to the question, it can be done. It's just us taking the lead.
Okay, thank you, CMO. If in the submissions you can include a copy of those MOU as well, so we can get the Secretariat to review those. The other question I wanted to raise in relation to the number of illegal persons that we have identified and deported. Could it be related to the issue of work permits? And of course you have the visa, and now that this function has been transferred to you, and you have a one-stop shop in looking into work permits and of course visa approvals, will that help in reducing those numbers and identifying these persons as well? Because with 205 in 2025 and 178 so far in 2026. What's your plan? How do we address this? If you can just give clarity on this.
Thank you, Chairman. So a person becomes illegal in under several circumstances. One is overstay. So they overstay their visa and therefore they become illegal. And normally this is, we look at this situation for short-term visas, so business and visitor visas. There are residents under employment visas who may overstay, but they have the opportunity to apply to renew their visas. Under those circumstances, we allow for application to come through, but charge a fee for late lodgement of a visa. Then you have a person becoming illegal, or we consider them illegal if they breach a condition of a visa. And this is a situation where in Wawu and Bololo, where a person comes in under a business visa and we find him working. Or a person is employed by another company, but we find him working in another company. Or a person was given a role as a manager and is performing a role that's for, let's say he's driving a bulldozer. That's an infringement of the Employment of Non-Citizens Act. So he's breached his work permit and visa condition. So under those circumstances, we have the mandate to remove them. Again, removal can be carried out in two ways. There is forceful removal. We will get the give the person the opportunity to depart administratively, or we forcefully remove them. Forceful removal requires cancellation of a visa if the person has a valid visa. That's when the minister is involved. The minister responsible for immigration is involved to get that person, detain them, and remove them through an instrument. Administrative removal, we give an opportunity to that person, and that's when the sponsor that brought the person in is approached and asked to pay the ticket and repatriation cost for that non-citizen. There are instances where both through forceful removal or through an administrative removal is being hampered by courts, the lawyers, and the main cause or the grounds that's now before the courts is through human rights. So there's a lot of immigration cases that are thrown out because of human rights claims that immigration that violated that person's human rights. So if there's anything that I could ask the request for committee to find a way to educate the courts that there is a clear demarcation between an administration law and what the courts can administer. In this case, this is something that can be is arguable, but from our perspective, that the court had overstepped, or respecting the person's human rights, but the court should have at least at some point be able to make a decision that the state has to enforce a law such as the Migration Act.
Thank you, CMO. Thank you, everyone. I'll basically summarize by what the governor has asked. If you can do those submissions to get a couple of questions there when the secretariat will share with you. I will not ask these questions. as lunch is approaching. But of course, concerns on non-citizens engaged in reserve activity list, we would like to see, investigative and compliance division to be strengthened at IPA. Those are some of the concerns that our citizens are raising, especially on issues of proxy ownership by non-citizens into reserve activities and fronting, detect fronting in terms of non-citizens running businesses that are reserved. They take the back scene and, of course, put citizens, Papua New Guineans in front. But of course, they don't control the business. You have foreigners running this reserve business at the back end. So those are one of the points that lawyers has raised. Labor skills transfer by non-citizens as well. That's one of the biggest concerns. We have foreigners are not transferring those skills. Someone not speaking English, and how does he transfer skills to our locals? So those are some of the concerns that have been raised. There's issues of local designs, intellectual property, theft by foreign businesses, getting local designs, doing mass production outside and bringing those products into the country. So those are few of the points I just wanted to highlight so that we can capture this in your submissions. But otherwise, thank you all for your work. CMO done a brilliant work and good work that you are doing. Customs, labor, and of course IPA. It is our hope that we can strengthen those collaborations and we can find ways forward from where we are with regards to the NTRA. I've been also vocal on that. We need our agencies to at least retain enough revenue to keep the operations going. So that's definitely one of the points that this committee will take up in its report as we present this report to Parliament as well. So thank you all, and we'll break for lunch. Thank you. So after lunch, we'll have the agencies that will be presenting is the Commissioner of Police, Mr. David Manning, Commander of PNG Defense Force, Mr. Philip Poleware, and of course NIO, Mr. Johnny Michael, to make their presentations. But thank you, our four heads of department, for your presentations. You can have lunch, and you don't want to stay back and hear the presentation. If you are busy, you are free to go. But otherwise, we look forward to your submissions to come in. Thank you.